Starseed from Gaia, your refusal to interfere in other people's chaos is exposing everything they wanted to keep hidden. I am Lirenne, channeling the Arcturian High Council from here on Gaia. Some people do not hate your silence. They resent that you cannot be controlled by their noise. By the end of this transmission, you'll understand exactly how to interpret Arcturian downloads and protect your mission without carrying guilt that was never yours. But here's the first revelation. Your boundaries are not rejection. They are evidence that your soul has stopped volunteering for patterns that drain it. You didn't arrive at this message by mistake. This is a point of reconnection, and your soul has been waiting for this reminder. Like this transmission to signal to your star family, I'm ready. Subscribe if your mission is activating, and comment 999 if your cosmic remembrance is returning. You are not here by accident. Some transmissions don't come through words, but through frequency. If something stirred within you just now, the Starseed recognition map and the awakening phases are being released completely free of charge for a limited time only. No payment, no catch. But this free access window will close soon. The link is in somewhere down below in the comments. And now, notice what happens inside you when you stop trying to manage everyone else's perception of you. Notice the space that opens when you no longer rush to explain why you are quiet, why you are selective, why you do not participate in every argument, every emotional performance, or every invitation to abandon your own center. It may feel unfamiliar at first, almost like standing in a room after a storm has passed. The noise is gone, but your body is still waiting for the next demand, the next accusation, the next emotional wave to arrive. This is where the real tension begins, because many people are comfortable with your presence only when your energy is available for their expectations. They may call it connection, but what they truly want is access. Access to your attention, access to your emotional labor, access to the version of you that constantly reassures them, rescues them, validates them, and makes their discomfort disappear. They are not always conscious of this arrangement. Sometimes people have simply grown accustomed to the light you provide, forgetting that even a sun must rise and set, must withdraw into darkness, must restore itself before it can shine again. The moment you withdraw that access, the atmosphere changes. Suddenly, your boundaries are called arrogance, your discernment is called coldness, your silence is interpreted as judgment, your peace is treated like an insult, not because you have attacked anyone, but because your self-possession reveals how dependent some relationships were on your self-abandonment. When you stop filling every silence, carrying every burden, and smoothing every uncomfortable edge, the hidden structure of the relationship becomes visible. This is one of the hardest lessons in awakening. Not everyone who feels disturbed by your transformation is being harmed by it. Some are simply losing the version of you they could control. A person may say they miss the old you, but sometimes what they miss is the person who never said no, never questioned the pattern, and never asked to be met with the same care they were receiving. And if you are sensitive, empathic, or deeply attuned to subtle shifts, you may have spent years trying to prevent this discomfort. You sensed tension before anyone spoke. You felt the mood of the room. You anticipated the reaction. You edited your truth before it reached your lips. You became an energetic translator for people who had no intention of learning your language. You could feel a message changing before it was sent, detect distance in a single word, and sense disappointment in a breath that others would have called ordinary. You called it kindness. Sometimes it was fear, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being excluded, fear that if you stopped accommodating everyone, there would be no one left, fear that your independence would be mistaken for rejection, fear that your inner world was too unusual, too intense, too quiet, or too expansive for ordinary relationships. Perhaps you learned early that belonging came with a price, and the price was often your honesty. But the deeper truth is that you were not designed to be universally understood. You were designed to be internally aligned. Even the prophets in Scripture were misunderstood by the people around them. Even Christ withdrew into solitude. Even Moses had to leave the familiar landscape before he could hear the call clearly. The sacred path has never depended on unanimous approval. There is a difference between being loving and being endlessly available. There is a difference between compassion and emotional absorption. There is a difference between honoring another person's path and allowing them to repeatedly interfere with yours. love can remain present without becoming a life raft for someone who refuses to learn how to swim. Your energy field requires borders, not walls built from resentment, but living boundaries built from self-respect. A boundary does not declare that someone is evil. It declares that your life, your time, your body, your attention, and your inner knowing are not public property. A garden without a fence may still be beautiful, but everything can enter it, and eventually the flowers are trampled by feet that never learn to move gently. This is where the Arcturian teaching becomes especially precise. Your frequency cannot stabilize while you are constantly negotiating with every external reaction. If every accusation pulls you into defense, if every misunderstanding forces you into explanation, if every rejection makes you question your identity, then your signal remains entangled with the opinions of others. Your inner transmission becomes like a radio station buried beneath static, not because the station has stopped broadcasting, but because too many outside signals are competing for your attention. You cannot transmit clearly while asking the entire room for permission to exist. This does not mean you become cruel. It does not mean you stop listening. It does not mean every person who disagrees with you is threatened by your light. Spiritual maturity requires discernment, not ego inflation. Sometimes criticism contains useful information. Sometimes your behavior needs reflection. Sometimes you have caused harm without intending to. Awakening does not make you infallible. The higher path is not the path of never making mistakes. It is the path of becoming honest enough to recognize them and courageous enough to repair what is yours. But there is a difference between humble self-examination and compulsive self-betrayal. One brings clarity, the other keeps you trapped. One asks, "What can I learn?" The other whispers, "How must I erase myself so they will stop being upset?" One returns you to your center. The other places your entire identity in the hands of whoever is loudest. Ask yourself, am I receiving feedback, or am I being recruited into someone else's emotional storm? Am I repairing a genuine rupture, or am I performing innocence for people committed to misunderstanding me? Am I being asked to grow, or am I being asked to become smaller so someone else can remain comfortable? These questions do not need to be answered in panic. Let them settle in you like stones dropped into still water. The ripples will reveal what your mind has been trying to conceal. Your body often knows before your mind does. Pay attention to the contraction that appears when a conversation requires you to abandon your truth. Notice the exhaustion that follows interactions where you had to monitor every word. Notice the strange relief that arrives when you finally stop chasing a person who only responds when you are useful to them. Notice how your shoulders lower when you no longer need to predict someone's mood, and how your breath returns when you stop rehearsing a defense no one has asked for. That relief is not always selfishness. Sometimes it is your nervous system recognizing safety. Your awakening may not look like dramatic visions or constant signs from the stars. Sometimes it looks like declining an invitation without inventing an excuse. Sometimes it looks like letting a message remain unanswered until you have the capacity to respond. Sometimes it looks like refusing to argue with someone who has already decided what you are. Sometimes it looks like leaving the room before your own energy becomes unrecognizable to you. The sacred often enters through these ordinary doorways, through the small decisions no one applauds but your soul remembers. These choices may feel harsh at first because you are trained to confuse access with love. You may feel guilty when you stop overgiving. You may wonder whether you have become distant, difficult, or unkind. You may even look back at the old version of yourself and mistake exhaustion for goodness because everyone seemed happier when you were carrying what belonged to them. But guilt is not always evidence that you have done something wrong. Sometimes guilt is the residue of an old identity dissolving. It is the emotional echo of the person who believed survival depended on being agreeable. It is the shadow cast by a former doorway, even after you have already stepped into a wider room. Let that identity complete its cycle. There is a version of you that learned to stay quiet so others would not feel challenged. There is a version of you that dimmed intuition so no one would accuse you of being strange. There is a version of you that kept returning to the same draining dynamics because familiarity felt safer than freedom. There is a version of you that believed being needed was the closest thing to being loved. That version deserves compassion. It was protecting you with the tools it had. It learned to scan the horizon because it lived through emotional weather that could change without warning. It learned to smile while hurting because honesty once seemed dangerous. It learned to anticipate everyone else because no one had taught it that its own needs were worthy of anticipation, but it no longer has to lead. The first activation is recognizing the distortion. You were never disconnected because you lacked a purpose. You were disconnected because too much of your life force was being spent on external regulation. You were reading everyone else's field while ignoring your own. You were tracking who was pleased, who was offended, who was withdrawing, who was demanding more, and in the process, the signal from your own center became faint. Like a compass held too close to a magnet, your direction kept shifting according to forces that were never truly yours. Your soul did not disappear. Your attention was captured. Begin reclaiming it in small, deliberate ways. Before responding to a request, pause. Before explaining yourself, breathe. Before accepting blame, ask whether it belongs to you. Before entering another person's crisis, ask whether your presence is truly needed or whether your energy is being used as a temporary bridge over a problem they refuse to face. Give yourself permission to answer tomorrow. Give yourself permission to say, I cannot hold this right now. Give yourself permission to be a person, not an emergency service. This is not avoidance. This is energetic accountability. The second activation is remembering that your codes awaken through resonance, not pressure. You do not force your deepest knowing into existence by demanding constant certainty. You create the conditions for remembrance by becoming honest about what your field can hold. A seed does not grow because someone shouts at it. It grows because the soil, water, light, and timing come into harmony. Your sleep may change. Your tolerance for superficial conversation may decrease. Your friendships may reorganize. Old environments may begin to feel too loud, not because you are better than anyone, but because your system is no longer able to metabolize what it once normalized. You may find yourself craving trees, silence, clean spaces, honest conversations, and long moments without digital interruption. These cravings are not meaningless. They may be signs that your inner temple is asking to be cleared. Let the recalibration happen without turning it into a performance. You do not need to announce every boundary. You do not need to make a ceremony out of every departure. You do not need to convince people that you are evolving. Transformation that is real does not require an audience to validate it. The moon does not explain its phases to the ocean. It simply moves through them, and the tides respond. The third activation is learning to distinguish solitude from isolation. Solitude is where your signal becomes audible again. Isolation is where fear tells you that no one could ever understand you. One restores you, the other imprisons you. One restores you, the other imprisons you. In solitude, you return to yourself so that you can meet life with greater wholeness. In isolation, you hide from life while calling the hiding spiritual protection. Do not use spirituality to avoid healthy connection. Do not assume that everyone who challenges you is operating from a lower frequency. Do not mistake emotional unavailability for sovereignty. Your path is not to become unreachable. Your path is to become selective without becoming closed, discerning without becoming cynical, and independent without losing the ability to receive support. A strong tree still receives rain. A mountain is stable not because it rejects the sky, but because it knows where it stands. The people aligned with you will not demand constant access to prove that you care. They will not punish you for needing space. They will not require you to betray your intuition in order to maintain the relationship. They may not understand every part of your inner world, but they will respect its existence. They will allow your silence to be silence instead of turning it into a courtroom where you must prove your innocence. That is the difference between someone who loves your essence and someone who loves your compliance. The fourth activation is releasing the obsession with being liked by those who benefit from your confusion. Some people will only approve of you when you are uncertain. They may praise your potential but resist your embodiment. They may celebrate your dreams as long as those dreams do not change the arrangement between you. They may tell you that you are powerful, but only if your power remains available to serve their needs. When you begin making decisions from inner alignment, their approval may become inconsistent. Do not immediately interpret that as failure. Sometimes resistance is simply the sound of an old agreement breaking. What feels like rejection may be the clearing of a contract formed from fear, obligation, or the desperate hope that if you kept giving, someone would finally choose you freely. You are allowed to outgrow an agreement without creating an enemy. You can wish someone well and still stop giving them access. You can honor the history and still refuse to repeat the pattern. You can understand why someone behaves the way they do and still decide that their behavior is not acceptable in your life. You can release them without cursing them, and you can forgive without reopening the door. Understanding is not surrender. The fifth activation is anchoring your higher awareness into ordinary action. Your star lineage, your multidimensional sensitivity, your intuitive intelligence, and your sense of purpose are not meant to remain abstract ideas. They become real when you use them to make cleaner choices. A message from the higher realms means very little if you continue ignoring the message your body sends every day. Drink water. Rest before resentment takes over. Speak directly instead of communicating through hints. Keep promises to yourself. Stop volunteering for roles that leave you depleted. Place your phone down when your inner voice is trying to reach you. Give your body evidence that you are no longer abandoning it for external approval. Let your spiritual practice include meals, sleep, movement, sunlight, and honest conversations. The divine is not only found in visions, it is also found in the way you inhabit the vessel carrying you through this life. The most powerful frequency shift may be a simple decision repeated consistently. The sixth activation is trusting that your aligned people will recognize the difference between your silence and your rejection. They will not demand that you constantly prove your heart. They will feel the integrity in your boundaries because they have boundaries of their own. They will understand that love is not measured by immediate replies, endless availability, or the number of times you sacrifice your peace. You may lose relationships during this period. Let yourself grieve without turning the loss into a verdict on your worth. Some connections were meant to accompany one chapter, not the entire journey. Their ending does not erase what was meaningful. It simply means the exchange has reached completion. Not every closing is a punishment. Some are acts of protection. Some doors close because the next landscape cannot be entered while you are still standing in the old one. And yes, some people may resent you, some may speak about you, some may create stories to explain why you no longer participate in the old dynamic. You cannot control every interpretation. You can only control whether you return to a life that required you to disappear. Let people construct whatever explanation allows them to sleep. Your responsibility is not to manage the mythology others create around your absence. This is the ultimate test of your awakening. Can you remain compassionate without becoming available for manipulation? Can you remain open without becoming porous? Can you remain humble without handing your authority to every voice that questions you? Can you listen to another perspective without abandoning the wisdom that brought you this far? Your mission is not to convince those who reject your clarity. Your mission is to embody it. There is a moment in every awakening when the desire to be understood begins to lose its power, not because you stop caring, but because you finally understand that someone else's interpretation cannot define the frequency from which you are living. The need to be witnessed begins to transform into the ability to witness yourself. You stop chasing the accusation. You stop preparing speeches for people who are committed to a conclusion. You stop measuring your growth by how comfortable others feel around it. You begin measuring it by the honesty of your choices, the steadiness of your breath, and the degree to which your outer life reflects your inner knowing. And in that silence, something returns. Your breath deepens. Your vision clears. Your vision clears. Your choices become simpler. You no longer need to ask whether a path is aligned when your entire body is contracting against it. You no longer confuse urgency with guidance. You no longer mistake familiar pain for destiny. What once felt like confusion becomes information. What once felt like loneliness becomes spaciousness. What once felt like loss becomes room for what can meet you without requiring you to fracture. This is the harmonic return. The part of you that was scattered across conversations, expectations, memories, and unresolved reactions begins gathering back into one field. Your attention returns. Your voice returns. Your capacity to choose returns. The fragments of yourself you left behind in old relationships begin coming home, not dramatically but quietly, like birds returning to a tree at dusk. And when your energy returns to you, people who were accustomed to receiving it may call that hostility. They may say you have changed. They are correct. You have changed the agreement. You are no longer offering unlimited access in exchange for temporary peace. You are no longer making yourself emotionally responsible for people who refuse to become responsible for themselves. You are no longer translating your soul into language that makes it easier for others to dismiss. This does not make you heartless. It makes your love more honest. Love that is rooted in truth does not need to perform sacrifice at every moment. It knows when to reach out and when to allow consequences to teach what rescuing never could. Your higher self is not asking you to hate anyone. It is asking you to stop hating yourself in order to keep them comfortable. It is asking you to stop interpreting your own needs as inconveniences. It is asking you to recognize that peace is not something you earn after everyone approves of you. Peace is a frequency you protect through conscious choice. Tonight or whenever you feel pulled back into the old pattern, place one hand over your chest and one over your lower abdomen. Feel the physical reality of your presence. Then say quietly, "I release the need to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding me. I reclaim my attention, my boundaries, and my right to move in alignment. I can be compassionate without abandoning myself." Do not say it as a demand. Say it as a return. You are not here to punish the people who could not recognize you. You are here to stop punishing yourself for becoming recognizable to your own soul. You are here to become the safe home you kept hoping someone else would provide. You are here to let your own presence become familiar again. And if someone steps away because you stopped chasing, let the distance reveal what the pursuit was hiding. If someone becomes angry because you became clear, let their reaction belong to them. If someone calls your peace a threat, do not destroy your peace to prove that you are harmless. You are allowed to be harmless and still powerful. You are allowed to be gentle and still firm. You are allowed to walk away without turning your departure into a war. There is no need to slam every door. Sometimes the most powerful exit is a quiet one, taken with dignity, without announcing that you are leaving. The Starseed path is not a performance of superiority, it is a discipline of remembrance. Remembering that your sensitivity is information, remembering that your body is an instrument, remembering that your time is sacred because your attention creates the reality you continue to inhabit. What you repeatedly watch, rehearse, tolerate, and emotionally feed becomes part of the atmosphere in which your life unfolds. Choose carefully what you keep feeding. Every time you return to a draining conversation, you feed it. Every time you replay an insult for hours, you feed it. Every time you reshape yourself for approval, you feed the timeline in which your identity belongs to everyone else. Every time you choose fear simply because it is familiar, you strengthen the path that keeps you circling the same lesson. But every time you pause, breathe, and choose from self-respect, another timeline strengthens, a timeline where your relationships meet you in truth. A timeline where your energy is not constantly extracted. A timeline where your mission does not require you to be exhausted before you begin. A timeline where you no longer need permission to inhabit the life your soul has been preparing you to live. That timeline is not somewhere far away. It is built through the next honest decision. So let them misunderstand the version of you that no longer volunteers for confusion. Let them call your boundaries harsh if they have only known you without them. Let them decide that your silence means something it does not. You do not have to enter every interpretation to correct it. You do not have to chase every rumor back to its source. The truth does not become less true because someone refuses to look at it. Your life is the message. Your consistency is the transmission. Your peace is the evidence that you have finally stopped negotiating with the forces that benefited from your disconnection. Before you scroll, take a moment to be part of what's forming here. Drop one intention in the comments, something real, then respond to someone else's with encouragement or energy. This isn't content, it's collective alignment. Energy multiplies when intention connects. If something in this message resonated, don't keep it to yourself. Someone in your orbit is waiting for this exact activation. Share it. And if you felt a soul nudge, subscribe. Stay in the flow. You're not just watching, you're expanding. This is your space, and we're just getting started.